delighting in the days when debilitating depression doesn't get in the way of living, choosing to cherish the ways I carry myself out of the chaos and mental confusion, believing in the boundless blessings I received despite the brutal inner bullies, accepting the attention and admiration that comes with showing up authentically. That piece is from What I Choose. And that was actually the beginning of a poem and spoken word that really helped me as I was excavating and climbing out of a double depression about. Um, Welcome to Brave Enough, Living with Chronic Depression. My name is Jermaine Henry, and I'm a storyteller, I'm a creative, MC, facilitator, and mental health advocate. Episode 2. I don't know if we even have a name for this one yet. Uh, we'll figure it out as we go. I'm trying to have fun with these. Like, chronic depression really seems like a doom and gloom topic, and I guess it is in certain ways, but also I'm trying to bring even my personality in here, not just the doom gloom, and my bright personality as well, to show that folks that have chronic depression, it's hard to tell. You don't always know who's who, what people are going through. Something I share with people often when I'm just talking, I'm like, anytime I'm talking to anyone or I see someone, I try to remind myself, like when I'm looking into your soul. But when I'm looking at you, it's like, I have no clue of what's going on in your mind right now, what's going on in your brain at that moment, or even the past history, the past experiences that an individual or person has gone through when I'm talking to them. So I try to show up with a certain level of curiosity, which is, I struggle with that one, curiosity, but also a level of compassion, empathy for folks, because you just don't know what they're going through. So kindness is the first choice. At least I try. Whew. All right. So before we go on, disclaimer. I just want to make sure that we understand this isn't a clinical space. I'm not a therapist or a psychiatrist. I'm not a doctor. I'm someone with lived experience with chronic depression, and I'm still learning, unlearning, and finding ways to heal out loud. Yes, I'm reading. This series, Brave Enough, is a space for those navigating mental illness, sadness, survival, but also a space for allies, supporters, loved ones, anyone who's trying to have a better understanding of the weight that many carry, of understanding of the suffering that people may be having in silence. And how can you show up? Or how can you have a deeper understanding to show love? You see it. We talk about real things here, like trauma, grief, the diagnosis, suicidal thoughts, and systemic harm. So please take care of yourself however you need. Whether you need a pause, put on the captions and just read it and not hear my voice, or whether it's like, okay, I can't watch this right now, but I'll listen. Whatever you need to do, take care of yourself. Please. You don't have to listen to this whole thing at once. This is more long form. It might be a snippet that catches you. Maybe, maybe not. Who knows? But I just pray and hope that you're able to use this space and for it to be beneficial for you, but also I'm looking for it to be beneficial for myself as well, as I am looking to be brave enough for my own healing. All right. So this is not about perfection. Clearly, like I'm going down, looking at my notes, I'm talking to you, we're here. It's not about perfection. It's about being braver. And it's not even about being fully brave. Just be brave enough to show up when we can for ourselves and for others, for loved ones, and to be able to show up and to share our voice and express so that others may be able to tune in to figure out what's going on with us, but also they can help and support or just join a company with us on our journey. So Braver is an acronym that I've developed over the last, wow, 10 years I've been exploring this. Wow. Um, so Braver, and what I'm going to invite you into for this Braver space as we're having these conversations that are a little more sensitive, that are taking courage for me to speak to, courage for you to even listen, and even more courage if you comment or if we're in this interaction, this connection, even just to be thinking and to have this conversation. Blah, 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 Jermaine. Let's go to our Braver agreement. So also, if you took in my book, I Believe Dreams, A Vision Guide, I did the similar exercise at the very beginning of it, where I invited folks to my own my braver needs and my braver offers, and for them to be able to offer the same as we're going through um, this conversation together. So here's a guide for this peer support, this reflection guide for braver. This is some of the what I am going through before we go any further. So first, I'm actually going to invite us to take uh, a deep breath in because I'm nervous every time I be speaking to people. Can't even lie. So breath in, hold for a moment, and out. Another one in and out. All right. So braver, bold, real, accountable, vulnerable, expressive relations. So bold, take courageous steps. Bold. I take courageous steps to face uncomfortable truths about myself, my story, my healing, even when it gets messy or uncertain. I'm agreeing to be bold in this series. Real. I honor honesty. I show up as I am, not as I should be. I trust that being real is enough. Whew, acceptance is key. This is really my own treatment, and hopefully, this is really beneficial to you. Accountable. I take responsibility for my words, my healing, and how I engage. I name harm without shame, and I commit to repair. And I'm doing the best that I can with this. Of course, this is an open forum on whatever platform it is, like YouTube specifically, where I'm going to try my best to be very mindful of how I'm speaking, but also speak my truth, be real, do all that. At the same time, being aware of trigger warnings that people may have, being aware of other people that may be in my story, and really being conscious and mindful of that, but also account for the story, for my story, our story, and do my best to hope for repair with my own relationship with myself, but also repair for other people in my community that chronic depression is may have gone in the way of, because I'm going to go through some of these symptoms even more today, and you'll see like, oh, well, that's what you've been going through. I didn't even know, fam. Why? Like, yeah, so accountable, vulnerable. I allow myself to feel, to not have it all together, to share from a heart, to share from the heart, even when it's hard. I keep on saying the same thing. Yeah, I'm sharing. I'm here. I'm showing up from the heart. This is vulnerable. This is honest. This is authentic. This is brave enough. Expressive. I value creativity, emotion, and voice. I use my words, my art, and my story as a tool for survival and connection, and hopefully thrive well at some point. In relations, braver, you'll notice I have in brackets relations. This is all for relationship with myself and relationship with you, so that it can rebuild a deeper connection. So I recognize that healing happens in community. I hold space for others, and let others hold space for me. Whoo! This is braver. And I pray and I encourage you to invest in this with me, for you to agree to have this braver space that we're creating together. And I'm consciously and purposely taking real amount of time because I'm going to be really telling more about my personal story in these episodes going forward. So kindly comment, even in the comments here, of what are something that you would need in order for you to have a braver space, for you to share your story and to open up about your own struggles. What are you willing to offer this braver space for me to feel, a bit more courageous, that this is the space where I can be open and honest and share my truth, and that it is something that is of value for our own healing and growth. So take a breath with me. We don't have to be perfect. We just have to be braver in silence. And that's just brave enough. All right. Last week or last episode, I was talking about being diagnosed. And I've been diagnosed with persistent depressive disorder. What is depressive? What is depressive? What is persistent depressive disorder? Well, briefly, it's a depressed mood. Most times that you have for most of the time for 2 years, that you didn't go without 2 months of not being in a depressed mood. But along with it is having at least two of these following symptoms. So it's poor appetite or overeating, insomnia, excessive sleeping, low energy, fatigue, low self-esteem, poor concentration, and indecisiveness, and hopelessness. And it's funny, like in yeah, I warned you about tangents, right? I remember in high school, around 15 years old, when I was really first, I'm thinking of how depressed I was at those times. But I remember MSN. If anyone has MSN, and I remember I had this status because one of my teachers was just talking about how like indecisive I am, and how indecisive I was at the time. And I remember one of my statuses for MSN was Mr. Indecisive. So just then, when I was reading again of like indecisiveness, I was like, yeah, definitely experienced that before. And what's wild about it is even now, and going through um, being an adult, even going from being a young leader into adult, is I'm a leader. So there's a lot of decisions that I need to make. A social entrepreneur. I haven't really shared so much about that part of my story, but folks that are tuning in most likely know me. And if you don't know me, you get to know me further. But like, as a social entrepreneur, as a leader, having poor concentration, indecisiveness is not helpful. Low self-esteem is not helpful. Like, so imagine that. And this is just for understanding, right? Like, I also don't need a pity party. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm going through this. We all go through our own challenges as humans. It's not all about me and my challenges. I'm just using myself as an example, and also as a mental health advocate through my personal story, so that you may not feel alone, so you cannot feel alone, but also if you're an ally, that you can have a deeper understanding what folks may be going through, and not that you have to be on eggshells or have to be so worried about it. I'm trying to speak candidly about it so that you can be brave enough to show up. You see it. I love saying you see it, by the way. So what I'm going to be doing in the next few episodes, and even starting in this one, is I'm going to share, there's this Dr. James uh, McCullough, McCullough, McCullough. Yeah, hopefully I'm pronouncing your name all right. But he founded and he started this methodology, this treatment of cognitive. Let me remember it. I don't even have oh have it written down. But cognitive behavioral analysis systems for of psychotherapy. That's the name of this treatment. And I find that treatment is has been helpful. Like my therapist, what I'm noticing with my therapist is that they're touching on so many different treatments, whether it be CBT, some somatic type of methodologies, modalities, as well as looking at family systems that we're going through. So again, this isn't a clinical space, but just to share that there are multiple methodologies and treatments that you can use. Um, but of course, seek help, professional help. This is just some of what I'm going through, what I'm using. All right, so what I want to do is to talk about some additional symptoms that Dr. James McCullough, wow, this is going to be great. Please, y'all, I'm judging myself enough right now. Trust me about how I'm pronouncing and how I'm speaking, whatnot. So if you want to add in the judgment, yeah, facial expressions are funny. All right, so I'm going to share some of the additional symptoms that he shares because when I was doing research and I'm looking further into persistent depressive disorder and just have a deeper understanding of what I'm going through, see what resonates, what not. And he shares some additional symptoms that resonated with me and I could see how they show up in my life. So I'm going to share a bit of them and then how they show up in my life. This is, again, really brave and brave enough because I don't know how y'all are going to be perceiving me after this. I also don't know how you perceive me now. But also, this is being open and you could really use this against me. That's really what it is. And I hope this isn't used against me in a court of law or a court of social law. I don't know. So some of the symptoms that he shares additionally is interpersonal avoidance. That is a symptom of chronic depression. The self isolation, I've definitely gone multiple times, but interpersonal avoidance is like I ghost before I get ghosted. It's all about not letting people in out of protection. So if you notice, you might see me around, you might not see me around. Like and it's such a weird thing because I'm a social person, but I'm also really not. And I'm a public figure. I'm about community, but also I have a lot of social anxiety at the same time, and I feel a lot of shame, embarrassment, guilt from social situations, even before they show up and after. So I'll talk a bit about that more in this one, but to share some of the other symptoms that resonate with me as well on this journey was pre-logical thinking. Pre-logical thinking is I feel unwanted, so it must be true. So it's this idea of us ruminating and having negative thoughts in our mind or having thoughts in our mind and assuming that that's reality. Like that's how the world thinks of it is everyone thinks I'm a loser. People think I'm an imposter, I'm a fraud. People think I'm messed up. People think I'm a madman. So that's how I believe reality is. That is what people really think. Or, oh man, I'm just going to mess up. I'm not going to show up. I'm going to start this podcast and I'm going to do 2 episodes and then I'm just going to flop again. Just assuming the reality before actually experiencing reality, like pre-logical, like really making a reason for something before it even happens. No one wants really for me to be there, so I'm not going to show up. Why I show up? Because no one wants me to be there. It's a weird thing. I'll go on more. Chronic anger and irritability can be a symptom of chronic depression. I'm mad and I don't even know why anymore. Oh, like, and I'm really mad at myself a lot of times, and I'm mad at the world. I'm mad at society. Like, there's a lot of deep seated anger, and underneath the anger, hurt, sadness, disappointment. Another symptom is hopelessness or helplessness. What's the point? Even joy feels temporary. And this has been a challenging one, especially as an artist, as a creative, as a dreamer, right? Is in my nature, I'm a very hopeful person by nature. I'm optimistic and I want to make a change in the world. That's what I'm about. Yeah, oh man, feeling helpless and hopeless for a long period of time is just a mind mess up for me, because then I feel like even more of an imposter, like, oh man, like, why even try to pursue my dreams if I'm just gonna mess up again, if it's not gonna work out? What's the point? And hopelessness, like, what's the point of even getting out of bed if I'm not even gonna get better? What's the point of making that call, making that connection when I don't even know if I'm gonna make it? I feel like giving up. I'm gonna take my time. Yeah, like I said, I'm gonna take my time to go through some of these symptoms and how they connect with even in my own life. But they're real. They're real, and hopefully this will be helpful for you and for me as we go further going forward. Like, I'm really trusting the process more and more and accepting where we're at now. That's what we're doing. Trauma response. Depression also is a trauma response. So there's been events and situations that have happened in my life where I how I how should I say this? How I've responded to them or how they've affected me, impacted me, has been in a harmful way, and that's what's been trauma. Like, it's been a difficult thing. So first of all, just being black, like waking up into this white supremacist world, this dominant world, Eurocentric dominant world, and being black has inherently its traumas. I also was born and grew up in. I was born in Durham. I was born in Oshawa and grew up in Durham. So predominantly in grade school, predominantly a white school, and being one of the own black kids and having my own experiences there that traumatized me in ways. And there's other things going further, but again, we'll go deeper into these over the episodes. And then egocentricity, and not selfishness, but seeing life only through the pain lens. Why is this always happening to me? This egocentricity also can happen with like some grandiose thinking that I might have at times, because like low self-esteem, just trying to overcompensate, but as well as just really only seeing, like, I don't know if people follow my career, follow some of my work, past these struggles. Like, I really had to focus on healing about pain and more about the negative, as opposed to having more of a broader perspective of all of it, the pain, the pleasure, the hopes, the sorrows, the joys, and just trying to keep perspective. But like, my perspective can get so distorted on just the hurt, the pain, the negativity, the doubt, the not enoughness. So those are some of the things that I've been navigating on my healing journey. Those are some of the symptoms. So now I'm going to go into, for today, is this interpersonal avoidance, because this has really been the really messed up for me, because I thrive off of being social. Also, I need my time alone, of course, but also being social and being this community driven person. When I'm avoiding social interactions, it hurts me, and also it hurts my connection with people, and it hurts and actually increases the vulnerability that I have with depression, because now I'm not as accessing the resources, the social resources, and the energy and support that I could have because I'm avoiding. But there is good reason as to why, valid reasons, I should say. Maybe not good, that's a judgment, but valid reasons that I have of having this avoidance, and avoidance tends to come out of fear. So this interpersonal avoidance. And now I'm going to be sharing this again, and even this podcast and people that are interacting. This is also part of my treatment in interpersonal learning, in interpersonal communication, even though I'm really just doing a monologue at this point. But we're talking, we're communicating. And also I'm sharing right out into the world so we can build a connection. All right, Jermaine, you're talking a lot now. So what I did was I jotted down some of the reasons for me of why I like why am I afraid of interpersonal connection? Like what is this about interpersonal avoidance? Why is this resonating um, for me before? Yeah. So some of the things that I wrote down were the rejection of my authentic self. Is there's that fear in interpersonal relationships. People won't support the real me. Family and friends will leave me. I'll be exposed for a fraud. And it's like these are like wild thoughts when I actually say it out loud. But I really sometimes I'm like, yo, if people really knew what I was about, who my real flaws, who I really am, they would leave me. They wouldn't support me. I've thought about, people always check in. They want to know how I'm doing, but actually, to tell you the truth, a lot of people don't check in with me anymore, and no shame on this at all. I've also, because I take a step back and I ghost, a lot of times folks don't even really, I'm not on their mind. And oof, that also has been a really tough and intentional in certain ways, is because like at some point I went from different ways. I went from I want everyone to see me so they can remember me because I don't know how long I'll be here, to I want to get out of the way so people don't feel too attached to me, so that um, it's not a much of a blow if I'm gone. That people don't feel as sad because they don't have as many connections with me. Weird, distorted thinking, yes, but this is part of the challenge of someone that's living with chronic depression and that is dealing with just like really negative thoughts that are happening or not necessarily make real sense. And a lot of this comes out of these thoughts come out of this low self-worth, emotional numbness of not wanting to connect, to have deep emotions with folks and to connect with them on an emotional level. Because I have like this internalized, just like this hopelessness, and I don't want to be a burden on other people. To tell you the truth, and like if people really see, oh, that's what you're thinking, that's how you think it, that's how you are. I don't want to be around that. And I already like sometimes I feel that already even now is that people don't necessarily want to be around me because they think I might be down or they're scared because of you know on eggshells because I've shared about my depression. I've shared about suicidal thoughts and things like that. And I think that, oh wow, like that's kind of intense. Ugh, you're an intense guy. I don't know if I can handle that. So those are some of the fears. That's one fear, is the rejection of my authentic self. And there's this layer of um, growing up with this constant pressure of being a black person and having this code switch, having to show up in a certain way and have to put on a mask. Like, yo, and people see me as this fun loving kid, fun loving guy, which I am, yet not all the time. You understand? And and I am a performer. I'm an artist performer, so I think I've gotten so good at just showing up and performing really. And that can feel so. I can leave away feeling like a guilt or feeling ashamed because like, oh, I'm not showing up authentically. I'm not being my full self everywhere I go to people. And that's something that I've taken pride in over years, is that I'm being authentic, that I'm sincere, vulnerable. And there's certain times when I'm in a depressive state where I lose all perspective of who I really am authentically, and I just think I'm a fraud. And it's tough. It's tough to have those expectations of growing up being the golden child, growing up and being this optimistic, this energizer bunny in a way, and then growing up into being more in your adulthood, and that's not really how I am anymore. Yet I have my moments, but like it's tough to feel joy and express joy, and to feel those connections with people when I'm still building that connection with myself. And there's a lot more even to it. I've been so out of the way that in conversations with people too, sometimes I'm like, yo guys, like I don't know certain references, and then now we don't have something to connect on for a certain reference, and I'm just like overthinking. I'm just in my head, and it challenges me to have these interpersonal conversations. Another core fear um, is public failure and shame. I'm afraid of being seen failing. And as a creative, as an artist, and as a change maker, I'm just afraid that people also will just talk about my flaws, and push up my flaws, and maybe now people won't want to hire me. Or like rappers are gonna rap about all my flaws. Like I'm giving you so much ammo for them to just diss me. Like this is weird thinking, but like these are the these are the these are negative thoughts, or these are the cognitive distortions, if we want to use psychology language. These are like distortions, and these are the lies that, and there may be some little bit of truth in these things, but like the way that they overshadow just my thinking gets in the way of me showing up interpersonally. And I'm really afraid people will turn on me. Either people will turn on me because I've had friends where it's like, oh, we're friends, and then now we're not, we're almost enemies. Not enemies. I don't have enemies like that other than the enemies. But yeah, those are a lot of fears. Like I have this chronic shame, this chronic stuckness, in, and going back to that pre-thinking of thinking like, people are just going to see me as a failure. That's what it is. People see me as a failure. People see me as a goof. They don't take me seriously. Why even show up? And imagine how challenging of thinking this is, and to like be thinking this often, and to be full of shame, all this, not wanting to show your face again when you're a social entrepreneur, when a part of my life is to show up. That's actually how I also make my livelihood, right? My living. It's weird. Like I don't even know how I make a living sometimes. Um, but it's because I guess I gotta pat myself. I am showing up in certain ways and publicly. I am making impact that people do see, and I gotta keep record of that, and keep reminding me of myself of that, and having others to remind me of that. Yeah. And then the third one, I'm gonna share the other, interpersonal avoidance. Another core fear that's underneath it is emotional overwhelm. I'll face emotions. I feel emotional overwhelm. I remember even being in therapy, one of my first few sessions in therapy, and my therapist just literally just asked me basic questions, and I like choked up, and I started to, yeah, like I just felt this tension in my throat and I couldn't really speak. I choked up, but a tear, my eyes started to water, and then they stopped. Like literally, I didn't have access to my full emotions. I was like really numbing things out, and it was it was because I told him like I'm afraid to feel and to process my emotions, to feel my emotions because I think it'll be overwhelmed. Like I'll start crying and then I won't stop crying. So that's another thing in interpersonal relationships. I literally like, yo, like my mom was here the other day and she was helping me with some stuff in my apartment. And I remember something happened and I sh- I was about to just cry. I was like, nah, I can't do this right now. And that's with my mom. Like that's one of the most intimate relationships that I have is my mother, and really just feeling a strong resistance to even cry in front of her. So I say all these things, one, to let it out for my own healing and expression of like this is some of these things that I'm going through, and also to keep myself accountable about me looking at fostering and building my capacity and learning my own interpersonal relationships and building that capacity, building those skills, and to let people in a bit more, to have a connection, to be more intimate and open so that I don't feel alone, that others can feel supported as well. Because honestly, it's not about living alone. It's not about living on this journey by ourselves. We can't do it by ourselves. We have to have people in our lives to uplift and for them to uplift us. And that's about a part of being human. It's part of living, not just surviving, but living. And we're working toward thriving, right? Right, right. So there's a bunch of for each of these. I also did some research and just sharing a bit of some healing counters to some of these fears, right? So to the rejection of the authentic self, this thought of people won't support me, the real me. It's this practice of interpersonal discrimination exercise from CBAS, which is that cognitive behavioral analysis system of psychotherapy. So to practice some storytelling, which I'm sharing right now, storytelling, affirmations as well, um, and reparenting or really showing love to my inner child, and making that distinction. I've been really making the distinction between that was you as an inner child, that's what you're going through, and this is me, and honor it, and to honor why I may feel rejected. And oh, all right, braver space, right? All right, braver space. Other reasons why I may feel rejected interpersonally when I'm going deep down into like early traumas is like my parents divorced early on when I was like 10 years old. They split up when my dad left the house when I was 9, and then the divorce was 10. And then my dad remarried actually, I think when I was like 11. So there's like, and then, so there's these feelings of rejection, right? Even that the abandonment issues I'm going through. But that was you, Lil Maine. That's okay, Lil Maine. I can understand why you can feel that sense of abandonment or rejection and to fear that interpersonally. And we can work through it. There are still people showing up in your life. Your parents are still in your life actively, and you're shown love and you give love. Even though I know sometimes you feel like you're the ick, you feel awkward, all these things, yet people are still in your life, showing up. That's beautiful. So there's that. And another healing counter for public failure and shame is asking myself, what evidence do I have that people support me even when I'm imperfect? And that's helpful for the first one too, right? And leading into those stories, leading into these stories using dialectical thinking, So dialectical thinking is like the both and. It's not either or, it's both and. Even if some people reject me, others still show up. And that is a reality that I have in my life. Is there's people that don't support me, that don't show up for me, that reject me, don't like me. And I have family and friends and community that support me regardless of my flaws. I got to remember that. And I'm sure there's people in your lives too. And if not, like those people will show up in your life. You have faith and be diligent. And again, seek help if you need. Whether that's community, professional, seek help, please. And the emotional overwhelm. To counter this is some distress tolerance plans. So like safe activities. So when I feel really overwhelmed, and something that I did, remember when I left out of school in 2012 and I was dealing with the breakup, my first official real breakup girlfriend. And I was really struggling at that time to the point where I asked my mom for a tele counselor through her work so I could have some free sessions, talk to someone, because I was on the brink. Like I really was struggling, right? I was even having suicidal thoughts, and it was tough. So I called the telesub counselor, and I'm explaining the whole situation, what's going on. I'm crying all those, and they're like, "Wow, that's really tough," and they validated my feelings. And then they said, like, "What can you do to self-soothe?" Right? And that was when I first was really taking in. Actually, that was the first time I think I might have heard about self-soothe, and a few months later, maybe a year later, I actually learned about dialectical behavioral therapy, and one of the things that they have is on distress tolerance and self-soothe. So finding something self-soothe, again, the reparenting of the inner child, and self-compassion as a routine, like really practicing self-compassion. So reminding that just because I'm feeling something hard, it isn't proof that I'm failing. It's proof that I'm living. So we're coming up to the end of this episode. Thank you so much for, if you've stayed this long, like thank you so much for taking it in, for listening and paying attention. That's love. Whew. I'm trying my best. Well, to close, I'm going to share a little bit of some hip hop healing methodologies of what I've been using hip hop healing for myself. And there's a song on my album We Made It called Bear, and it's really raw. And actually, I have my dad smooth keys. My dad's playing the keys on it. It's produced by Eric Flo. And here's the hook, literally the hook. And again, this is my hip hop healing. This is what I'm using for my own journey of recovery as I'm going through chronic depression and other undiagnosed disorders. And this is the hook again, just for expression. I just want to get better at my craft. So I pour out, here is another draft of this feeling that's brewing in me, poisoning my mind, anxiety, depression, suicide. So I'm literally sharing in the record what was going on in my mind, and how me writing and rapping this craft of mine, or even me sharing here, emceeing, me sharing this craft of mine and me pouring out, this is for my own healing. And the poison that's in my mind, anxiety, depression, suicide. So that's a part of just expressing and getting that out. But then there's like the affirmation piece, and this is from Healing Time Med Kit, Vibrating Higher. And this is one of the lines that I share for my own encouragement. May my attitude be full of gratitude, despite the deep blues. I am blessed and blooming. So those are a couple of my affirmations that I'm using on this healing journey. The next episode, I'm going to go deeper into some of the other symptoms and how they are relevant to my life. I hope this was of value to you. It feels like it's a value for me. I'm going to see more as I process this episode, as I edit. But as we finish up, just some questions for your own reflection, right? And you might want to journal and write down for yourself. What are you becoming aware of about yourself or of others or of loved ones? How do you take care of your own sadness, your own mental, your own thoughts, negative thought loops? Also, how do you hold space for others? What's yours and what's not yours? So I invite you to journal. Again, this is Brave Enough, Living with Chronic Depression. My name is Jermaine Henry. Thanks for listening. One love. Peace. Whew.